Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1554B, and today's date is April 26, 2018, and the title of the episode is Text Messages Released to Congress, Toxic, Order 187 Discussed. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded a new interview on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. It is with Kenneth Amaduri. You can go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. It will bring you to the interview, or you can come over to the x22report.com or newsentinel.com website. Scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side. You'll see the interview right on the site, and you can play it right there. Or you can go to Steemit, that is steemit.com/@X22Report, and you can play the interview right on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, they are in a lot of trouble. The text messages have been released to Congress, not to public as of yet, according to Q, which we have not seen them as of yet. These are the text messages from Strzok and Page, and they're saying that these text messages, they are toxic, and Congress is debating on what they should do. They're so bad, allegedly, that they're discussing what they should do with this. Should they announce it to the American public? Shock them? And we can see right now that Sessions, where everyone thought he was this bumbling idiot, he didn't know what he was doing, he was with the deep state. Well, Q has revealed what has been going on, and it is a shocker, and we're going to be talking about that in just a little bit. But let's first go with Comey, with Daniel Richman right here. He's the Columbia law professor where Comey handed off his memos to this attorney, which then leaked it to the corporate media. We find out that Professor Daniel Richman, well, he's supposedly a special government employee for Comey's FBI on an unpaid basis. Now, this is very interesting because Richman is saying, I did indeed have SGE status with the Bureau for no pay. And he wrote this in an email. So if he had special access, why did he make the media rounds and not state he had that or that he was Comey's attorney? If he was SGE, he's just as much at fault for leaking as Comey now. So here are a couple questions that need to be answered. When did Richman get the SGE status? When was Richman hired as Comey's attorney? What cases did Richman have access to? What was his clearance? Does he still have SGE status? Now, the summary of government ethic rules for special government employees reads as following. 17 CFR 200.735-12, Special Government Employees. In no event will the Commission waive a provision of the conduct regulation which would permit a special government employee to, number one, use his or her government employment for a purpose that is, or gives the appearance of being, motivated by the desire for private gain for himself or another person, particularly one with whom he or she has family, business, or financial ties. Number two, use inside information obtained as a result of his or her government employment for private gain for himself or herself or another person, either by direct action on his or her part or by counsel, recommendation, or suggestion to another person, particularly one with whom he or she has family, business, or financial ties. Now, for the purposes of this paragraph, inside information means information obtained under government authority which has not become part of the body of public information. So Comey, when he was under oath, never disclosed he was a special government employee. When did he get that status? Comey testified that he asked a good friend of mine who is a professor at Columbia Law School to provide the contents of a memo to an unnamed reporter. He didn't identify Richman to the committee. He never mentioned this. And Richman, who was an SGE, handed over the information. Seems to be a problem with this. We see that the FEC records indicate that Hillary Clinton, her campaign, illegally laundered $84 million. Now, the mainstream media, they haven't taken any notice to this. They're not even looking at this. And this was filed in federal court last week. The lawsuit filed last week in a D.C. district court summarizes the DNC Clinton conspiracy and provides detailed evidence from the Federal Election Commission filings confirming the complaint's allegation that Democrats undertook an extensive scheme to violate federal campaign limits. Now, you would think since this has been filed, that the corporate media would be investigating all of this. But they're not doing anything. Why? Because again, they're the mouthpiece for the deep state. We see that there's hundreds of migrants headed our way. Now we know that they've been pushed up from South America through Mexico. A lot of them is dispersed, but there's still a handful that are now on the border of Texas. And we know that this is going to go up against Trump. And I think this is being done on purpose to put a lot of pressure on Trump. Right now, the Department of Homeland Security and the border guards, they have orders to arrest people who are crossing the border illegally. Now, of course, some people are saying that they're not crossing the border illegally. They're looking for asylum. Well, if they're doing that, they have to go through the proper channels and they have to make their case. They just don't get on a bus and they're not just delivered to a sanctuary city like they've done in the past. So if they want to go through that process, that's not a problem. They just have to prove it all. And they have to give all their information and things like that. So there's going to be a standoff on the borders, and we're going to have to watch to see how this unfolds. We see out in North Korea, both leaders, Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un, they're going to meet at the border at 9:30, local to their time on Friday. And Friday's summit will take place in the Peace House located in the heart of the demilitarized zone. And they're going to be talking about all different things. Kim actually is going to walk across the border to the south. Kim to review South Korean military honor guard after walking together with Moon. And Moon and Kim to start summit at 10:30 a.m. on Friday. So we see right now that things are progressing very well. There is peace in this area. And we know that the deep state does not like this. And what the deep state likes to do is they like to go from area to area. Well, North Korea didn't work out. We couldn't get the war started there. Let's move on to, maybe Syria, maybe Iran. And that's what we see happening right now. Now, Russia, they're going to be signing a deal to supply India with S-400 air defense systems this year. And it looks like they're going to be getting those weapons. We also see out in Syria for the first time ever, there are photographs of Russian Tor M2 surface air-to-missile systems spotted in Syria, and these missile systems, they are low to medium altitude short-range air defense systems designed to engage aircraft, cruise missiles, precision-guided munitions, unmanned aerial vehicles, and short-range missile threats. And right now we can see that these are now in Syria, and Russia is looking to sell the S-300 to Syria. And actually, this will give them a range to hit the airspace of Lebanon and things like that, which would stop Israel from coming into or even flying around the border of this area. And Israel is very angry at Russia, saying, listen, we will destroy these missile systems, which most likely they will not be able to do because their systems will intercept the missiles, which they've proven over and over that they have the ability to do this. Now, we see in Iran, the Iranian naval commander, they're out there doing exactly what Kim Jong-un did. They are threatening to sink U.S. ships, and we know the USS Truman is out there, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a false flag where a ship maybe gets hit, blames it on Iran, and all of a sudden we have war kicked off here. That is a possibility. That could be a false flag. We've seen it done before. But we see Iran is out there, and they're saying, listen, we're going to come after the U.S., we're going to come after Israel, we're going to fire our missiles, we're pointing the missiles at all of these locations. Doesn't this sound very similar to North Korea, where they're going to be bombing Chicago, Alaska, they're going to wipe the United States off the face of the map, and they're getting prepared for war? All that is propaganda to get the U.S. to do something. It was propaganda to hopefully push a false flag, which never happened. Here we are with Iran right now, and we know Q says Iran is next. Now, do I think there's going to be regime change? No. I think the same thing is going to happen with North Korea. There are clowns that are integrated within the system that are controlling certain aspects of what happens in Iran. And I think the mission, just like in Armenia, is to remove these clowns. These are the intelligence operatives inside the country. And I think the same thing is going to happen with North Korea that is going to happen with Iran. Once this is all said and done, the Iranian deal will be reworked. The clowns, of course, will be removed, and we will have peace. Now, of course, we have to get there, and the deep state doesn't want us to get there. We already have Israel out there, and this is Israel's defense minister saying that Iran is on the brink of economic and military collapse, and Israel will attack Tehran and destroy every Iranian military outpost in Syria, threatening Israel. Now, this is a lot of talk. Iran is not on the cusp of economic collapse. They're not having regime change. The deep state tried a regime change in Iran. It didn't work at all. But this is the push right now by the deep state, by the intelligence operatives, to get something started. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see something huge happen out in this area, where maybe one of the strike group ships out in the Mediterranean, maybe it gets hit by something, sinks it, blames it on Iran, and all of a sudden all the corporate media starts reporting on it, saying Iran has attacked. And you have to remember, Iran hasn't attacked anyone in 200 years. Why in the world, same story that we've been talking about with North Korea, why in the world would they want to start a war? It makes no sense. And bring Russia and China into this war and have a great war out in the Middle East, where the United States, Israel are bombing their country. It makes no sense. Why would you want to do that? It almost makes as much sense as the Islamic State in Syria saying, hey, United States, come in, fly in here, bomb us. Why would you do that? What kind of strategy is that? Well, it's a strategy if you want the United States to come in and bomb the army of Syria so the Islamic State can gain more ground. That makes sense. But the Islamic State saying, come and bomb us, that makes no sense. So really, when you hear all of these things, they're trying to convince you that Iran or North Korea or the Islamic State, they want the United States to start something because we want war. Come on and attack us. That's ridiculous. They're not doing that. This is all being pushed by the intelligence agencies. This is all being pushed by the deep state to get us into a war. This is what they want. This is why they use false flags. This is why they push all of this. Now, Q has dropped a lot of intel here, and we're going to go to post 1271. And Q says, not public. Now, the Strzok text messages between Strzok and Page, they've been given to Congress. And now in Congress, there's a debate, and Q says, debate how to handle. They are buying time. Why? Because the text messages are extremely toxic, dangerous. Q goes on saying that POTUS is receiving threats. Q says, note 187, which is a kill order. So it looks like they're becoming very, very desperate, and they might even try to do something. And in these texts, I wouldn't be surprised that this might even refer to a kill order in the text. And Congress right now is looking at this, which is very interesting. Now, Q with post 1272 refers back to post 586. And post 586 says, what would happen if texts originated from FBI agent to several internals discuss the assassination of POTUS or a member of his family? This is the note 187. What if the text suggests foreign allies were involved? Forget the Russian setup. This is only the beginning. Be careful what you wish for. As for the world turns, could messages such as those be publicly disclosed? Now remember, this was put out there on January 22nd, 2018. Q posted all this. And he went on to say, what happens to the FBI? What happens to the Department of Justice? What happens to the special counsel? What happens in general? Every FBI, Department of Justice, previous case would be challenged, lawless. Think logically. It's all starting to make sense. I can't even imagine what is in these texts, because if Q is saying that this would be unbelievable to the American people, where we would have to look at every single case, where we'd have lawlessness, that we'd have to look at everything once again, it must be pretty darn bad. Post 1273. What happens to the special counsel? Well, if the text messages are released and it's as toxic as Q is saying, the special counsel, there's no need for him. Rudy met with Mueller. I think Rudy is telling Mueller, listen, look what we have here. You better start wrapping this up. Q went on to say coincidence, connect, public announcement, end of POTUS investigation, continue with other investigations. What does that mean? Investigations into Hillary, into Obama, Strzok, Page, Comey, you name it, Clinton's. They're going to be investigating all of those people. Stage set, support growing strategic, planned. We have it all. Welcome to the White House. Now, while all this is going on, the Senate panel passes a bill to protect Robert Mueller from being fired. Now, I don't think that Trump is going to fire him. I think Mueller is going to be forced to say there's nothing here and there's no reason to continue once this information does come out. Now, we're going to move on to post 1275, where Q says, interesting theory. It's nice when you work in peace. And he wants us to look at the bigleaguepolitics.com. Here's Jeff Sessions might be playing 4D chess. No redactions. Q. So let's look at what Q is trying to tell us, and let's understand what has been happening. Now, a lot of people believe that Sessions is part of the deep state. Sessions a bumbling idiot. He has no idea what he's doing. He's going after all the wrong things. And then we start to understand what the strategy has been and is still the strategy today. On March 2nd, Attorney General Jeff Sessions recused himself from any existing or future investigations of any matters related in any way to the campaigns for the President of the United States. Everyone forgot the line that followed. This announcement should not be interpreted as confirmation of the existence of any investigation or suggestive of the scope of any such investigation, he added. But what he did not say was that the announcement should not be interpreted as a denial or the existence of any such investigation. The swamp and virtually all the hysterical right that was conditioned to being stabbed in the back by its elected or appointed officials merely assumed that no investigation was going on into the Clintons, into Obama, into the Pfizer warrant, into Comey, and everything else. In fact, Sessions inherited an ongoing investigation by the Inspector General Michael Horowitz. There was an investigation underway. There were many of them underway at the very moment Sessions uttered those words. Horowitz had been, in the words of Arlo Guthrie, oppressed, suppressed, repressed, sitting on the Group W bench. His legitimate investigations under the Obama regime had been squelched, sidetracked, or unceremoniously canceled. Horowitz was one of those rare Washington creatures, a man who actually has a sense of honesty in his mission. Sessions could not personally lead the attack on the swamp, nor could he ignore the criminality. He needed to be seen as doing nothing, prosecuting the dark web, Medicare fraud, MS-13, or anything else to make it look like he was just off track doing other things and getting people angry so people didn't catch on to what he was doing. In the meantime, someone else was doing the heavy lifting. His solution was elegant in design, brilliant in conception. If he could not investigate, he certainly would be obligated to follow through on demands from other legitimate sources, the Inspector General or Congress, who discovered criminal behavior and demanded action. Much of this was handled by his number two, Rod Rosenstein, who quietly in mid-2017 initiated separate investigations of the U1 scandal and Hillary's emails. Rosenstein also picked up and continued on ongoing FBI investigations of the Clinton Family Foundation, supporting it with offices in Los Angeles, New York, D.C., and Little Rock. Throughout 2017, Sessions cleverly and effectively maintained the illusion of doing nothing when it came to bringing cases against the prime elements of the deep state. At the same time, the special counsel Robert Mueller was in some eyes running rampant, issuing indictments for Michael Flynn and Paul Manafort. The dichotomy was more than many conservatives could take. Here was Flynn, a highly decorated soldier, pleading guilty to a lie that even the FBI investigators at the time concluded was not a lie, while people such as Tony Podesta, Andrew McCabe, and many others were walking free. Then came early 2018, and the real design of the Sessions counter-coup began to leak out, often from Sessions himself in the context of replying to congressional queries. First, it was revealed there was an investigation of Hillary's emails that had been going on for months. Next, in January, Sessions announced that Cody Hyland was appointed prosecutor of the Clinton Family Foundation in Little Rock. Notice that a grand jury was impaneled. There also appeared, but so far it is not clear if Hyland himself impaneled that grand jury, if it was a routine grand jury for the district or he repurposed the grand jury. In short order, it was then revealed, again in a response to Congress, that there was an ongoing investigation into the U1 scandal. It was later revealed by Sessions that there Not only was a prosecutor looking into the various illegalities that Horowitz was uncovering, but that Sessions named the prosecutor John Huber, and it was later leaked that Huber had impaneled a grand jury, and that the investigation that Huber took over had been going on for months. By that time, it was clear to all but the most obtuse that Sessions had been silently setting up 3 separate investigations in late 2017 and was using the opportunity of congressional requests to make them public. There were other Department of Justice investigations, 2 into the Clinton DNC machine, including an FEC violation, that is the Federal Elections Commission. And that was an investigation that was continually ongoing, which we just saw that they found out that the Clinton campaign was laundering $84 million. So Sessions presented the image of being completely out of touch. No documents were released to Congress until there had been a very public and very contentious debate. That was by design. Sessions' strategy all along had been to investigate in the background, but force either Congress or Horowitz to the forefront as the origination of the requests. Rudy Giuliani has joined Trump's legal team. It's worth noting he is a prosecutor, not a defense attorney. The big Inspector General report is scheduled for release on May 15th, with yet another IG report specifically on the FISA abuse to be delivered at a future date, not yet stipulated. Slowly but surely, Sessions has maneuvered every piece on the board to indict virtually everyone of the deep state up to and including Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. The question is, will he? It's played out the way he intended for 2 years. I believe that he's almost ready to go forward. And especially with these texts that are coming out, I think everything is in place right now. And everyone who is sitting there going, when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? I think we are very, very close for everything to be blown wide open, which means the deep state is most likely going to try to stop this. They know what's going on. And we can see right now that they might be ready to do something very, very big. So we can see a lot is headed our way. And big things are about to happen, so everyone needs to sit tight and just watch the fireworks. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.